get started. Thanks, Sarah. Let's get the participants list. Okay, hello everyone, welcome, and thank you very much for joining. I can see the participants' numbers are going up, which is fantastic. Let's just wait just a minute or so just to let everybody join us. And please do feel free to introduce yourself and say hello in the chat as well, if you can. We really appreciate you joining us today. I think the actual CND meeting is just finishing. I've got it on my laptop in front of me. It's just finishing. So a few people may join us after that has officially closed, which I think has just happened by the looks of things. So yeah, okay. Or is just about to happen anyway. So, okay, fantastic. Let's get started. Thanks again, everyone, for joining. We have, I can see we have 48 people on the call, which is fantastic. Our quorum, according to the statutes, is 15% of members in good standing. So that gives us, at the moment, that is 33 organizations. So we're clearly a quorum, which is great. And we've got a lot to get through today, but I hope it'll be a really useful and really helpful call for all of you. So just for those who may not have heard from me or seen me before, my name is Jamie Bridge. I'm the chair of the Vienna Committee on Drugs, the Vienna NGO Committee on Drugs. And I'm really pleased today to be joined by several of my fellow board members. So we have Ergin and Matej and Heloisa with us today. Penny Hill and Helen from the board send their apologies for, particularly for Penny, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning or something in Australia. So I don't think anyone was really expecting her to dial in. And also online, we have Sarah Perker from the VNGOC, our project officer. And also we have several members from the working group that worked on the nominations committee proposal. And I can see, for example, I can see Marie Nougier and Stig Erik and a few others. So welcome to you as well. So before we start, hopefully everyone can see the slides kind of behind me, and I'll keep taking myself out the picture if I'm blocking any text. So before we start, just to confirm, the meeting is being recorded, and we will put it up on our website. Mainly, we'll put it up on our website so that people who weren't able to join us because of the timing, that they can still follow the meeting afterwards. You can submit your questions anytime. We welcome people to raise their hands. We welcome people to write in the chat. And we also have at the bottom of your Zoom screen, hopefully you'll see a Q&A option as well. So we'll either try to address those questions verbally, or Sarah might try to respond to some beforehand. And you can also use that Q&A if you're having any technical problems or you need any advice in that way. But what we would ask is that you do keep yourself muted and you do keep your video off unless you're speaking, just to try and ensure that we don't have any background noise. So a quick review of the agenda, which was circulated a few weeks ago, as is the norm. So the agenda today, first thing we have to do is adopt this agenda, which I'll ask you to do in a second. We will have a roll call, and basically that will be the Zoom participants list, the attendees list that we can see, as well as the votes that were submitted in advance as allowed. And we've got one organization that's here by proxy as well. So we won't name all of those organizations in good standing, but they will be included in the minutes when we share those around. So I hope that's okay with everyone, because Sarah's currently, her camera's off because she's currently in the background, just making sure how many members in good standing we have on the call. So thanks, Sarah, for doing all of that stuff in the background. I then want to go to approval of the minutes, apologies for absence, and then we get to the substantive items. So we have the proposal on the nominations committee to discuss. We then have to appoint the nominations committee for the March elections. And then given, hopefully there'll be time, we can then also provide a bit of an update from our side. We can talk a bit about the CND coming up next year. and Matej can give a quick presentation on some other updates from the VNGOC perspective and what we've been doing in 2021. And then we're also hoping that Billy will join us and can give an update from UNODC as well. So that's the agenda. So first of all, as I say, the roll call, Sarah will be working on that, and we'll confirm that number as soon as we can. Can I, unless I hear any objections, I'll assume that the agenda is adopted. Okay, I don't see or hear any objections. This is like the Zoom equivalent of me looking around the room, you know, to see if anyone's got their hand up, kind of thing. And are there any comments on the last minutes that were shared from the meetings that we had in April? Or if there are no comments, I'll assume also that those are adopted by the General Assembly. Okay. I can't see or hear any comments, and there's no hands raised. So, okay, we'll pass those as adopted as well. So thank you, everyone. Apologies for absence. Sarah, I don't actually have that list of 16 organizations. Are you able to read them out, or shall we include them in the minutes?
I would suggest to include them in the minutes that were the 16 organizations that sent their votes in advance.
Yeah, okay. So we have received apologies, and we will list those in the minutes for everyone. So thanks to those organizations who did receive apologies, and particularly thanks to those who also, you know, as well as sending an apology, also submitted their kind of votes in advance. Okay, so we move on now to the membership proposal. And what I wanted to do first was, before handing over to Stig-Erik, I just wanted to kind of update and give a summary as to how we got to where we are now, and to explain the process that we've been following for most of this year, actually. So a proposal from a number of VNGOC members, a range of different members, submitted a proposal to the board and to the General Assembly back in March this year. And that was duly added to the agenda, and it was discussed at the AGM that we had in April. We had a really good discussion as a membership about that proposal. Stig-Erik, I believe, presented the proposal, and then there was a lot of discussion and a lot of questions. And it was decided that rather than making a decision at the time, what we would do is take a more consultative and a more kind of slower paced approach. And so what we agreed to do was to create a working group. And a working group was formed in May. There was an open call, so any VNGOC member was invited to join that working group. And I think in the end, we had somewhere around 8 or 9 people on the working group. So once again, a huge thank you to all of them for volunteering their time and for being part of that discussion. The working group then had several calls, kind of May, June, July, I think, and then we also reconvened after the summer. And we crafted a proposal, and then that proposal was sent out. It was translated into various languages, and it was sent out to the membership in September. The idea being that we wanted to get as many people's views on that proposal as possible. We wanted everyone to see it and to have time to understand it. We also then organized 3 consultation meetings. We did them at different times of the day so that they would be accessible to colleagues in Latin America and the Americas, also to colleagues in Oceania and Asia, as well as Africa and Europe. So we organized those consultations. We had, across the 3 consultations, I think we had around 25 to 30 members join. And again, some really good feedback, some really nice suggestions, mainly around areas that just needed a bit more clarity, a bit more explanation. And the final version of this proposal, which you have in front of you, actually includes a few footnotes to try and provide that clarity. So we held those consultations so that everybody could have an opportunity to engage in this process. And now, 9 months later, after the AGM that we had in April, we're here again, and we had this proposal to put forward to the membership. The actual proposal itself, without wanting to overlap too much on what Stig-Erik is hopefully going to say, but just to confirm that the proposal that's been put forward does not change or does not propose to change the statutes or the rules of procedure. The proposal that you have in front of you is to introduce a new terms of reference for the nominations committee. There never was one before. So what we're trying to do here is provide more clarity and more guidance to the nominations committee on their role. And as well as repeating all the things that the statutes and the rules of procedure already say, it also adds an extra task for the nominations committee, which is that we are asking them to look at the candidates for each position and to recommend a slate, a suggestion from their side, a recommendation from their side about what would represent a balanced board election each time. And remember, each year there are 3 board positions that are open for election. The document goes into details, and I can let Sigeric elaborate on that. But again, just one crucial thing that I want to reiterate. It's in the document, but I really want to reiterate it here. What the nominations committee are producing, their slate, so as we're calling it, it is only a recommendation. Every VNGOC member in good standing is still completely free to vote however they want, to vote for whoever they want and whatever combination of candidates that they choose to. The slate is a recommendation, and we hope it will improve the process, and we hope that it will support the members in providing them a bit more information each time round. So without further ado, yeah, I think Sigeric, is it okay if I hand over to you now as a kind of leading member of that working group, and also obviously as one of the organizations who was part of the proposal that was originally submitted? Yeah, I don't know if you wanted to add anything about the proposal from your perspective.
Yeah, yes, fine. That's fine. You can hand over to me. I haven't prepared a long speech, and I think actually you covered the main points here. The background of the proposal was that we saw that there were potential for the board to become very unbalanced in terms of gender, geography, and policy perspectives, background, because every time we elected people, we would just meet in people would not be fully prepared to assess the full board when we go through these election procedures. So we believe that it would be useful to have a nomination committee that would be responsible for presenting a slate of candidates that would answer to those needs. And I think that there are 2 key things. One is what you said, this is a recommendation from the nomination committee, which means that if we are unhappy with the proposal from the committee, we can still vote according to our preferences. The other thing is that this is not a change to the statutes, it's a change to the terms of reference, which means that if we try this out for a couple of years and find that it is not really working, any organization can propose a change, and it will just require a simple majority to reverse the decision. So I think both those things are important to keep in mind. This is a proposal. It's a suggestion to improve a process. It's not a solution to every conflict or every problem that we will encounter. It does require a spirit of collaboration, but I believe that the Vienna NGO Committee is an umbrella organization for organizations with very different views on drug policy, with very different perspectives, with very different priorities. And it is important that a variety of those views are represented on the board, and not least that is also a global or a network. And it's really important that all regions are represented. I mean, all regions can't be represented at all times, of course, but that at least there is some exchange, and that all regions are represented on the board regularly. So I think that those are the main issues. I think that the problem when we come to Vienna and vote individually as organizations, it's difficult to keep all these things in mind when we vote for our candidates. And I think what has happened over the past couple of years is that we've informally organized and sort of recommended candidates, which I think is it's sort of natural, but it's also risky because it's not transparent. There are some people who talk together and discuss and sort of come up with a recommendation. So I think that's one problem. And I think also the problem is that if we divide along sort of party lines in a sense, then you can risk one faction, one group with a small majority will dominate the whole board. And I think that's the thing that we don't want to see happening for an umbrella organization, because that would mean that a large number of members would feel that they are not represented on the board. So those are the consideration. I know that people have had the chance to look at the details, and so I don't want to go into every aspect of it, but that's the main purpose of the proposal.
Okay.
So thanks.
Steve, thank you so much for that. Yeah, and I do, like I say, and to you, but also to everyone else from the working group as well, a huge thanks for the time that you put in to develop this proposal and to get it to this stage. And also thank you to all the members who have engaged through the consultations or through written responses, who have engaged in the spirit of trying to make this proposal as good as it can be. So what we would normally do if we were face to face in Vienna, which I really, really hope we can be again very soon. But what we would do if we were face to face is I'd be looking around the room and we'd see if there was a consensus, or not a consensus, but a clear majority in favor of this kind of proposal. It needs a simple majority, so it just needs just more than half the members in good standing to vote for it. But I mean, having discussed with the board earlier this week, and I'm from the UK, so I'm very damaged by the Brexit election and the damage that a vote can do if it comes 51% in one direction and 49% in another. We're really hoping that we can get a clear, if not consensus, but a clear decision from the membership rather than a marginal one. So the Zoom equivalent of looking around the room and asking people to put their hands up on Zoom is this, which is that I'm now going to ask all of you as members if there are any objections, and then we'll ask if there's any abstentions, and then the assumption will be that all other votes are in favor, in the same way that we would be doing a show of hands if we were sat in the room. And I hope that you'll be okay with that kind of that way forward. Just to confirm as well that we have 60 members in good standing who are here today, or if not here today, they've submitted in advance or they've submitted a proxy as well. I think, Stig Erik, actually, you're the only person who has a proxy as well today. So we have 60 members in good standing here, which is fantastic. And as I've said, that does represent quorum, which means that we can go ahead. Before I do that, I just want to ask if there's any additional comments or if there's any additional questions in particular. Okay. Oh, John, over to you. You have your hand raised. So, Sarah, are we able to allow John to take the floor?
John should be able to speak. John, please go ahead.
Over to you, John. I can't hear John. Can anyone else?
No, John appears to be unmuted, but we can't hear you, John, regardless.
I see he's now unmuted. Can we maybe make John a participant, like as in a panelist, to see if that helps? Of course.
Yeah.
Sorry, John, bear with us. Thank you. We will we'll try and fix this. So if we move you over to be a panelist, then maybe that will give you the floor. So whenever you're ready, John.
Yeah, I hope mine is simple. Just I was hoping, before we really got into it, Jamie, if you could just explain very simply the process from here and today and then to the the C&D conference?
Yeah, so in the process, to be honest, the process doesn't really change much whether or not we adopt the proposal today, because we still have to choose a nominations committee today. And then that nominations committee will follow the usual process between now and March. So the process is that the nominations committee will be selected by us, the General Assembly. They will then launch the call for applications for the elections, and that will happen early in the new year. The deadline for nominations to come in will be communicated to everyone. And if we do approve this proposal, what will then happen is the nominations committee, as well as checking all of those nominations to make sure that they are eligible, to make sure they're in good standing, to make sure that they are complete, the nominations committee will also work together to see if they can reach a consensus on a recommendation, as we've said. And then that recommendation will be shared with all the membership at the same time that we would normally share all the applicants. So everyone who applies for a board position, they will have their nomination kind of accepted. They will have their nomination processed, and the VNGOC members will get to see everybody who has applied, and then they will also receive the recommendation from the nominations committee. So it's going to be, the nominations committee task is a tough one, and they've got January and February and early March to complete it, because we're hoping to have our AGM on the 16th of March. I'll come on to that a bit later. So that's really the process herein. And like I say, even if the proposal doesn't pass right now, the nomination, we still need to select a nominations committee, John, and they still need to issue the call for proposals, and they still need to check all those proposals for eligibility, etc. So there's a lot of steps that actually remain completely unchanged and that we still have to do in the next few months. But that's all, you know, that's the regular practice that we've adopted. Does that help, John?
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I didn't, sorry, I'm really sorry, John. I didn't catch that. You were breaking up. Or maybe it's my connection. Sarah, did you catch it? Is it my connection?
No, John broke up
Okay.
in between.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, I said, thank you for that clarification.
Oh, okay. Okay. No worries. Thank you so much.
I've stopped the video. Hopefully it helped.
Okay. No problem. And yeah, thank you very much, John. So are there any other questions or any other comments before we kind of go to the next stage kind of thing? And again, you can put those in the Q&A, the chat, you can raise your hand. I want to make sure I'm giving everyone fair time. Just as we would if we were physically in the VIC. Okay, so let's proceed then. So I just see a comment here from Esbjorn. If we agree on the proposal with a nomination only pros from the people who have been nominated. Sorry, Esbjorn, I'm not quite sure I understand, or proposed. So Esbjorn, if in this proposal, the idea is that every candidate gets shared with the membership, whether or not they're in the slate or not, because that would only be fair. It is only a recommendation. We don't want to prejudice, you know, so every candidate will be shared, but as well as sharing all the candidates, just the normal list like we always do, there will also be the recommendation that is circulated to members. So if you are a candidate and you're not included in that recommendation, your application is still seen by all the members, just as it always would be. Yeah, so no one is being no one's being shut out, so to speak. I hope that makes sense, Esbjorn. Okay. And then was there a comment as well from Shane? Did I miss one?
There's one comment in the Q&A section from Johan Mertens.
Yeah, so we did, yeah, it's a very good question, Johan, and thanks for asking. It's one of the things that we did discuss in the working group is, you know, is 6 board members enough to really ensure this kind of representation? And it's one of these challenging things where, you know, if you try to make sure that every group has, you know, a designated seat, so to speak, you quite quickly end up with a group of, you know, 13, 14, 15 people, which is kind of unmanageable as an operating board. You know, so we have to weigh it up against, you know, against the logistics, you know, because the VNGOC does also try to pay for its board to come face to face. We haven't managed to this year for obvious reasons, but normally there are budget implications as well, but also just the operations of, you know, I think in my experience, I've been on various boards, you know, in my experience, somewhere around 5, 6 or 7 is probably an optimum number for an operating board in, you know, an executive board in this of this kind. You know, something like the civil society task force that we had for the UNGAS and for the 2019 process, you know, that ran into, I think that might have had more than 20 members in the end. And it doesn't always necessarily add value in that way. It sometimes becomes harder to actually do things. So it was decided, you know, one thing that we decided quite early on was that we didn't want to do anything at this stage that requires the statutes or the rules of procedure to be amended. And if we were to enlarge the board, that would require a different vote. That would require a different conversation, I think, Johan, and an agreement to actually change the statutes. So it's something that is nothing's off the table. I'm not saying that will never happen, but right now it wasn't deemed that was a step we wanted to take right now, Johan. And again, I hope that answers the question. Okay, and thanks again. And yeah, I mean, look, Johan, we are free to change bylaws. We can change the statutes. That requires a 2/3 majority, but it also requires a proposal to be brought to the AGM. There's a process to follow, but yes, absolutely, you can change those. And that's something that if it's something that enough members felt strongly about, we could consider that in the future. But right now, at this time, it's not part of this proposal because we didn't want to put a proposal forward that actually changed the statutes or the rules of procedure because we didn't think that was necessary, or the working group rather didn't think that was necessary. Okay. Okay. So let me move on then. And what I'm going to do, as I've said, is the Zoom equivalent of me looking around the room and asking for a show of hands, which is how, in an ideal world, how we'd be doing this right now. So first of all, can I ask, please, if and you can do it through raised hands or comments or Q&As, can I ask if there are any objections to this proposal being passed now? Okay, I hear and see none. We have received 2 in advance, so we will note those. We have 2 objections in advance that were submitted. So thank you to those members for engaging as well. Can I ask? I've seen 1 abstention from Kenzie already. Can I ask now if there are any abstentions from this vote, please? And again, you can put those in the chat, or you can raise your hands, or you can put it in the Q&A.
Just to get a line on that, from my understanding is there's one copy that came around this.
Okay, I don't see or hear any abstentions. Sarah, can you see any? Am I missing any?
No, I can't see any.
Okay. So as we only have 2 rejections and 1 abstention, we therefore have a clear majority in favour of this proposal, which is therefore passed by the General Assembly. So thank you so much, everyone, for your engagement. And particularly, as I've said, thank you so much to the working group and Stig Erik and Marie and other colleagues on the working group here for getting this and working on this all year. So thank you very much. Much appreciated.
Jamie, before you move on, Johan Mertens had another question regarding how the working group came to the decision to weigh every sector to 4.
Oh, sorry, Johan, I missed that in the Q&A. Okay, yeah. So do you mean like why we said it was? Yeah. Okay. So with 6 board members, one of the things we discussed as a working group is that, you know, ultimately you can have a vision of what balance will look like, but because of the nature of the elections, you're actually at the mercy of which nominations come in. You know, you could be aiming, you could say you want a gender balance, you know, that's 50-50, for example. But then if you only receive nominations from men, or you only receive nominations from women, it's unlikely to happen. But, you know, let's, you know, just humour me. If you're at the mercy of what nominations you receive. So it's not always going to be possible to achieve that balance that you're striving for. So we didn't want to create terms of reference where it kind of tied the hands of the nominations committee too much. So we've tried to allow some flexibility there, which is why we say, you know, 4 out of 6, or, you know, and we try not to be too rigid in that, because we understand how difficult a task this is for the nominations committee. So we've tried to make it a workable suggestion. I will come back to what Stig-Erik said, and I think it's a fantastic suggestion, that because this is a new proposal, and you know, the elections in March will be the first time that this is attempted, we absolutely should reflect on it, and we should invite the nominations committee each year to come back and tell us, did it work, or does it need to change, or is it, you know, does it need to be adjusted? Because I think this is one of those things, as with, you know, we changed all the election processes a few years ago when we redid the statutes. You know, all of these things take a while for everyone to get used to them, and for them to work really, really optimally. So I would definitely come back to what Stig-Erik says, that we should revisit this in March, and therefore, and thereafter, every March from then on, to make sure that it is working and that it does help the nominations committee, you know, and we're not setting them an impossible task. So that's why we kind of did we tried to put the parameters around the balance in the way that we did. Okay, fantastic. So let's move on. And thanks again for all your engagement and for your support as well, obviously. Really, really appreciated. So that takes us to the nominations committee. And again, this nominations committee, you know, we normally have like 3 or 4 volunteers. Normally we are in the room in person, and we're kind of, you know, from myself or Matej are normally kind of pointing at people in the crowd and saying, can you please put your hand up? We're really pleased that this time there's been a lot of interest in the nominations committee, which is fantastic. So we actually have 10 nominations, 10 volunteers for people to join the nominations committee. And what's even more pleasing for me, and I think for the board overall, is that they come from a range of different regions, a range of different organizations, a range of different perspectives, you know, it's quite a good group, I think, that we have. The interesting thing is we envisaged in the TOR the nominations committee, we said that it would have to have a minimum of 3 people, otherwise it wouldn't really be a credible process. We did envisage that it would have a maximum of 7. The main reason being that we didn't want, again, coming back to what I said earlier, Johan, you know, you don't always want a group of 15, 20, 25 people, because then it actually becomes so much harder to get things done. That said, in honor, you know, in respect of the fact that we have got 10 applications this time round, and that it is a broad group and includes some of the, you know, there's names on here of people who were on the working group, which I think is fantastic, but there's also names of people on here who haven't really volunteered for VNGOC roles before. And again, that is so welcome. That's really, really welcome. So my proposal to you as the General Assembly, because you have to appoint this nominations committee, my proposal is that on this first occasion, we actually accept all 10 volunteers for this. I think because it's the first one, it's, you know, I think it's maybe more excusable to have a bigger group so that they can get used to the process. And so that's what I want to put forward. Again, I open the floor now. If anyone has any objections or any concerns or questions, you know, please do take the floor and let us know. And if not, then I will assume that people are comfortable with the proposal. Did I see a hand raised? and then unraised. Any comments, please let us know. It's so hard to do this on Zoom, and normally I can see your faces, but yeah, I'm trying to read the room remotely, which is an impossible task. Okay, I cannot see any objections. So thank you, everyone. And particularly, obviously, thank you so much to our volunteers. It's hugely appreciated. Just to clarify, the one rule is that if you are on the nominations committee, it means that no one from your organization can run in the elections. So, I really do appreciate these members putting their time forward and taking on this task. And I repeat the invitation that when it comes to the AGM and the actual elections, when they happen in March, I would love to give the floor to the nominations committee to get their feedback on how this went. And I think, as Stig Erik said, that's going to be a really important part of this process. So thank you so much, everyone, for that. And we'll note those names. And Sarah will contact you. What is that right, Sarah? You'll contact everyone after this meeting and kickstart that process. Yeah.
Yes, I'll contact everyone next week, and we can kickstart the process before the end of December.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. Okay. So we've now got a bit of time just to update you on what's been going on. I mean, it's been busy couple of days because we've had the CND reconvene session has just closed. It closed about half an hour ago and ran over time because there was a lot of discussion. Particularly, it appears that the chair of the UN working group on arbitrary detention was originally due to speak at the CND, and then after some member states objected, she was then uninvited to speak. So as you can imagine, there's been quite a lot, quite a lot of discussion around that, so to speak. I've just seen just very quickly, I've just seen a comment from Esbjorn. We don't normally choose a chair of the nominations committee. We don't normally, and that isn't written into the terms of reference or anything like that. What normally happens is Sarah moderates and facilitates the process as the kind of staff member in order to help the group to operate, but we don't appoint a chair. And sorry, Regina, I was saying it's the chair of the UN working group on arbitrary detention. This is part of the UN's human rights mechanism, and they produced a report related to drug policy earlier this year, and they were due to present it today, but they were uninvited, it seems. Or I think the video has now been posted online as a compromise. So yeah. It was that's why I'm just trying to explain why CND ran over time today, because that was all quite dramatic. And yeah, so just Amy, just to be clear, no one from the nominations committee, no one from their organizations can run for the election. So for example, I think Marie Nougier was there for IDPC. That means no one from IDPC as an organization can run for election this year. Not that we would have anyway, because I'm the chair. But yeah, that's the rule that we have. That already was the rule as well, Amy. Just to clarify, that has always been the understanding of the position, and it's just to avoid a conflict of interest. Okay. Okay. So, and yeah, I think Monica, it's a good point. We'll ask the nominations committee. I think they can self-select a spokesperson for sure. Particularly when it comes to the AGM to feedback. And again, that tends to be what kind of happens. I think that's sort of what happened last year as well. So moving on, sorry, the 65th CND, the dates have now been as good as confirmed. I think they're still officially called tentative on the website, but we believe the CND will happen from the 14th to the 18th of March next year. And therefore, that's why I say that we're planning to have the Vienna NGO Committee AGM on the 16th, which is the Wednesday in the middle. Now, obviously, the $1 million question is, can we go? Can we go in person, or is it going to be another online event or a hybrid event? And unfortunately, at this point in time, I just can't give you the answers to that. We just don't know what's going to happen in the next few months. For the reconvened meeting today, we had hoped to be able to be there. I personally had my flights booked to be in Vienna this week, and then the restrictions were changed, and the meeting was essentially online only, although there was a handful of people in the room. So what we will do in the new year is continue to try and get clarity on what's happening. We actually have a call with the CND Secretariat next week to start that conversation. And we will keep you updated. And we plan to have like an online event for, you know, an informal meeting for the Vienna NGO committee to let you know everything we know. And, you know, hopefully end of January, maybe early or mid-February, once we get some clarity. But the CND, whether it's online or not, will still have the usual things, the side events, the informal dialogues, and the AGM, just like we did earlier this year, even though everything was online. It's looking like the side events might be online regardless this year, but that, again, that's not been confirmed, and we'll try and get that confirmation as soon as we can. On the side events, the guidelines have now been released, so you can find those online. The link is in the slide, and we will have the slides are going to be up on the website. So all of this information will be available to you, or maybe Sarah, if you could maybe post the link in the chat as well, in case someone wants to click it now. The application period opens on the 10th of January and it closes on the 21st. So it's a relatively short window. And as always, we'd recommend that you start working on your proposals now, and you aim to get them submitted earlier in that window, you know, if that's possible. And the guidelines they've produced, it says that they may be online. They still don't confirm, they still haven't confirmed whether that's the case or not. But again, our advice to everyone is to prepare for both eventualities, an in-person side event or an online side event. We will have the AGM, as I said. We'll confirm the board will meet in February, a month before the CND, and we'll confirm, based on what the COVID restrictions look like, we'll confirm whether we try to have a face-to-face meeting or a online meeting, or maybe 2 online meetings like we had earlier this year. Obviously, as I said, the you know, a face-to-face meeting is our preference. We'd love to see you guys. We haven't physically engaged with the membership for nearly 2 years now. So, you know, we would love to have a face-to-face meeting if we can. There's 3 board positions up for election, which is those of the deputy chair, the treasurer, and the secretary. So that is Matej and Ergin and Helen. Their positions are up for election. And as I said, we're aiming to do it on the Wednesday, all being well. So without further ado, I'd love now to hand over to our secretary, to Ergin, who can talk a bit about what we've been up to in terms of the membership and how the membership's been continuing to grow. So Ergin, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jamie. And hi to everyone. This year, we had a very lucky and productive year. We had many applications from all around the world. Now, VNGOC has 325 active members, and from 93 countries across the world. So we are going very well. As you see in the graphics, we mainly have more members from Europe, but we all have from 6 different parts of the world. And we are going to work much more to expand the membership of VNGOC in different countries and with our regional consultation groups. I may ask Sarah or Jamie that which members that are going to be taken from membership if they cannot continue their activation periods till March. I think there is 37 organizations.
Yeah, so Sarah, let me stop sharing my screen, and then could you share that list? Would that be okay?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'll stop sharing and hand over to you so you can share. And yeah, so Ergin, these are the organizations that they haven't engaged or paid their fee or been in good standing for the last 3 consecutive years. So they're the ones that are currently, we're contacting them as we speak to try and say, do you still want to be a member? Is there any way, Sarah, to enlarge that?
Yes, just give me a second to see that.
Thank you. And the reason for sharing this list now is that there's some of these organizations, I think particularly the ones in orange, where the email address that we have isn't working. So there might be people on this call who know these organizations that can actually help us to contact them. Sorry, over to you, Ergin.
No, that's correct. Mainly, there are some organizations that have been shaded by yellow or orange that we cannot reach them, and their email addresses are not working, as you see from the list. And this list can be also shared with the other members that if they know these organizations, they can help us to reach these organizations. And there are some others that do not reply to emails from VNGOC, and some of them are not paying their membership fee. So if nothing changed in their statute, at this March 2022, they are going to be taken out from the membership. So for this reason, we would like to share this list with you to help them if they would like to continue their membership in VNGOC. Thank you, Jamie.
Okay, thank you very much. I think because it was quite a small list. So Sarah, if it's possible to maybe copy and paste it into the chat so that people can look at it. And as Ergin said, if you're from an organization on that list, or you know an organization on that list, please do help us to contact them, because in our experience, what we found is that a lot of the time it's just because the person we're trying to email has left the organization, or they've changed their website or their URL or something like that. Or sometimes the VNGOC emails are just getting rejected or put into the junk box. So we'll try and get that list over to you in the chat so that you can use it. And again, any help would be hugely appreciated, as I said. So let me now just go back to the slides. Let me just get to the right place. Apologies. Okay. So the other thing that we wanted to talk about today, and it's a good opportunity to do it, is the membership fees. Let me hide myself so you can see the whole screen. So we are not proposing to change the membership fees. I don't think there's any real reason to change them. The board had a discussion about this on Tuesday. So the fees that you see in front of you here are the same ones as we already had in 2021. And you will, as before, you will have the option to pay in euros or US dollars, because we have both accounts. So whichever currency is more convenient for you. And the US dollar amounts will also be the same, because I think although the exchange rates have gone, up and down a bit, we're pretty much at the same level we were before. So again, I ask you as the General Assembly, are there any questions or objections or any comments about the membership fee structure? And if not, we can consider it to be adopted. Okay, I don't see. Oh, I have a hand raised. Rek Penny Bassi, can we maybe move Rek Penny over to be a panelist, Sarah, so they can speak?
Yes.
Yeah.
1 second.
Thank you. And I see as well, while we're doing that, I see Sarah has shared the link to that list. So again, hopefully everyone can access that. And as I say, just let us know if you know any of those organizations, or you can help us to reach them. So yeah, Rek Penny, please join us. Please take the floor if you can. And I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I apologize if I'm not. Please, yeah, over to you. We can't hear I can't hear anything. I don't know if others can. Rek Penny, are you there? Okay. Sarah, can you hear? Is it my connection, or is it the call?
No, I think he just dropped out. Maybe he'll rejoin in a minute.
Okay, so maybe Rek Penny, if you wanted to write your comment in the chat, then we'll happily address it. So other than that, I can't see any other objections or any other questions about this. So we'll consider that adopted as well. And thanks again for supporting that. So now I'll hand over to Matej. If you're still there, Matej. Yeah. hand over to you, and Matej, the Deputy Chair, is going to take us through a quick summary of what we've been up to over the last 12 months. So the floor is yours.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yep, hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
Okay, I will also switch off the camera so not to disturb the view on the screen. Despite the situation with pandemic, Vienna NGO Committee organized several important events alone or together with other partners, and 3 webinars in February and March 2021 on drug control conventions and international standards on drug use prevention and international standards on treatment of substance use disorders, and also informal meeting in March 2021 as a preparation meeting for the 64th CND, and Vienna NGO had the informal members meeting. And we were also present quite significantly at the 64th CND in April with statement, with 6 co-sponsored side events, 4 informal dialogues, also AGM, and coordination of civil society statements. Next slide, please. And also in spring, in May, June, and July, we were also quite active. We organized civil society hearing on illicit financial flows with INCB, civil society hearing, and also CND event on June 26th. We presented Vienna NGO Committee statement and selection of free society, civil society speakers at the launch of the World Drug Report. And in July, we organized webinars on the World Drug Report in 4 different languages. And also Asia Pacific consultations also took place in July to discuss the first draft of Asia Pacific Common Position. Next, please. And in autumn, we were also busy. In September, we organized Vienna NGO Committee consultations, informal consultations on the draft terms of references for the nominations committee. I'm sorry, my son and dogs are playing behind, so just now when I have to give a speech. So
it wouldn't be a Zoom call if we didn't have that, Matej. Don't worry at all. You carry on.
Sorry, before they were quiet for 2 hours.
Of course.
They're crazy behind the doors. I'm sorry. And also in September, we organized a webinar on global developments on HIV/AIDS and UNODC's partnership with civil society. And also in October, CND thematic intersessionals. During the 3-day intersessional meeting, we have 3 civil society speakers presented their views. And the next slide, please. Next slide, Jamie. And now in the last 2 months, in November, webinar on UNODC's Families First program materials in 4 different languages. And also now just concluded CND reconvened with some statements from civil society organizations and Vienna NGO Committee. And also in the 9th of December, yesterday, Asia Pacific consultations, the 2nd regional consultations on common position also was organized. And all those, most of these activities conducted were conducted in cooperation with and with the support of UNODC Civil Society Unit. Webinar in September was part of joint UNODC Civil Society Unit and Vienna NGO Committee project funded by US INL. So this is from activities. And sorry again for the dogs and the child noise behind.
No problem at all. Thank you so much, Matej, and thanks again. I've seen some comments in the chat as well, giving credit for the slides as well. So thanks, a huge thanks to Sarah for capturing all of this for us so neatly. And yeah, as I said, the reconvened concluded today. We did make a statement on behalf of the Vienna NGO Committee yesterday. That's already available on YouTube and via the website and social media. And stuff like that. And we we've just reiterated what we've already said about the importance of making sure that civil society is not an afterthought when we're trying to work out what a hybrid CND might look like. So, you know, we're really keen to try and keep pushing that issue. And as I said, we have a conversation with the CND Secretariat next week to have that conversation. Okay, thanks so much, Matej. So just moving on quickly to the final few bits. We have some events upcoming as well. As Matej has shown, there's already been a great program all year on webinars as we've tried to keep this engagement with the membership going, even though we've not been able to see you physically. And that continues next week. On December the 15th, we have a webinar organized by UNODC called Data Explained, as part of a series that they're doing, which is trying to increase transparency and awareness about how the UNODC collects and processes its data. And Billy from UNODC will be moderating that one for us next week. So I hope to see you there. Details are on the VNGOC website if you're interested. And then in January, with the help of Heloisa from the board, we are also organizing a webinar on access to controlled medicines. And we'll have a range of speakers from the UN and civil society. We'll make sure that is translated, and we'll confirm the dates for that as soon as we can. We're still trying to coordinate speakers at the moment, but that will be, I think Heloisa, we said it would be towards the end of January. Yeah, so maybe like last week or two in January. In February, we're very happy to support a conference that's being organized by the Slum Child Foundation, focusing on civil society in East Africa. I think George is actually with us here on the call. So we're, like I say, thanks again, George, for that initiative, and we're very happy to support that. And then we will also, as I mentioned earlier, we will definitely have an informal meeting for the membership at some point in February, basically once we know a bit more about the modality of CND, and once we're in a position to hopefully answer some of your questions. So keep an eye out for that as well. Just a few final words from me, just to say that the NGO marketplace continues to go from strength to strength. Hopefully those of you who are on the marketplace receive the weekly updates, the weekly email that kind of captures everything that's been uploaded. And it's really great for me to see that there's more and more stuff being posted every week by a real range of different organizations. We now have more than 420 organizations on the marketplace, which is fantastic. If you're not on the marketplace, it only takes a few minutes. It's a great place to showcase and promote your work, promote your reports, your events, anything else that you're doing. So please take a few minutes to join if you can. And then just to also update on the working groups, and you know, this has been discussed at length beforehand, but we agreed a few years ago to create an Africa working group and an Asia working group. They're both ad hoc informal groups, just responding to the fact that we noticed that our membership was a bit lower in those two regions of the world. So the Africa Working Group did a lot of engagement with the Africa Union and created a common position, which was launched at CND 2020. And they continue to meet on a, you know, every maybe 2 or 3 times a year. There was plans for a lot of engagement around the Africa Union meeting last month, but unfortunately the meeting was cancelled at the very last minute. So that never quite came to fruition, but we were on the agenda to actually present the common position at that meeting. The Asia Working Group is working hard as we speak to create an Asian common position. Hopefully all of you from that part of the world have seen that process and have seen that document as the drafts have been going around. They had another big consultation meeting yesterday, and a really productive discussion about that document. And the aim still is that we will launch that document at the CND next year through a side event, and hopefully through submitting it as an NGO paper. And then, you know, in many ways, some of the most important work that we continue to do is the selection of speakers. We, despite the COVID pandemic, despite all of those restrictions, we have still been able to nominate speakers for a range of different meetings throughout 2021, and we've continued to push for as many opportunities as possible, whether they be at CND meetings or side events or webinars or whatever the opportunity might be. We as a board are constantly pushing for these spaces for you to engage. Across all of the different opportunities which are listed on the left there, we received 187 applications to speak, around a third of which were from women, and they came from 57 countries around the world, which is fantastic. Let me hide myself so you can see this slide in its full glory. So we're really pleased with the range of different regions applying. As is the standard, we used the criteria that already exists, and it's available online. We used the criteria to guide us when we select speakers. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, but selecting speakers is the hardest part of the work that we have to do. It's always so difficult because there's never enough space for all the good applications to be approved. So we have to be looking at the quality of the abstract, but also we're always looking at the gender balance, the regional balance, the thematic balance, and really trying each time to make sure that we're presenting the full membership of the VNGOC and not just subsets of it. And with that said, the result of that being that we were able to select just under 50 speakers for different events. Remember, as I said, we received 187 applications. So, around 1 in 4 were approved, which is great. The gender balance this year wasn't as good as we want it to be, partly because of the applications that we received, as I said, but also there was some meetings where almost all applications were unfortunately from male speakers. But we have tried our very best to kind of keep addressing that. And you'll see from the graph there that, every region represented, obviously Oceania, well, not obviously, but Oceania less represented than others, partly driven by the fact that most of these meetings are happening in the European time zone. So it's just inaccessible for many Oceania colleagues, even though pre-recorded interventions are a possibility. And yeah, that's it from our side. Although I'd like to now hand over to Billy. I can see there's a few questions, but what I'll do is, if I can, Billy, hand over to you for a quick update from your side. And then while you're doing that, I'll look at the questions and then I can come back afterwards. Is that okay, Billy?
Absolutely. No, thanks so much, Jimmy and colleagues for all your work. It's been quite a busy year. As you summarized, Jimmy, it's quite encouraging to see all of those activities that have been carried out, of course, by the VNGOC, and we as a civil society unit are always happy to support as much as we can. So it does seem like it's been yet another challenging year, but with a lot of success with regards to what the committee has been able to achieve. And I was looking at the numbers, which are quite impressive, actually, which we've been monitoring this ourselves, and it seems like together with the VNGOC, you've been able to, or we've been able to engage about 1,220 stakeholders from 481 civil society organizations through webinars and different events. So that's quite a significant number, which we're very happy about. Of course, it seems like, in terms of gender distribution or gender participation in those meetings has also been quite balanced, with 52% of those stakeholders being women. So, and these are very important numbers for us as the organization, as we continue, of course, to ensure also a gender and geographical balance in a participation of the VNGOC events and activities, which is important. And therefore, also, we are very encouraged by the adoption of these measures to ensure, let's say, in this case, geographical gender and geographical balance within the membership of the VNGOC. So congratulations on that, and that's really a very encouraging measure as well that you have just adopted right now. And the other thing that is encouraging us within UNODC is to see the work that is being done in different regions. Again, I had the opportunity to participate in, I think it was the meeting of the Asia Pacific Working Group, which is also working on their own common position, I think building on some of the experience from the African common position. So these efforts are very useful for us as the organization also kind of provides us with the opportunity to continue supporting the committee as an umbrella organization with different efforts from different regions kind of speaking or representing civil society with one voice. So that's very encouraging. We will continue as UNODC to support, of course, the VNGOC. We're looking at different modalities that we can that can help us to maintain or to sustain the contract with Sarah so that she can continue to support the committee on a more regular and let's say for at least stable basis throughout the year. So we'll be in touch with that, and we thank her so much for all her work. So, all the other updates you've given, Jamie. So we're looking forward to 2022, continue to working with you and to support your work. And of course, we're always happy to hear from you. So thanks so much, Jamie.
Thank you, Billy. Really appreciate you being with us today. And again, I think, it's already been said, but thanks also for all your support and all the support of the Civil Society Unit over the last year. And, we were happy to acknowledge that in our statement yesterday as well. Okay, so we have a few questions, some any other business, I think, from Marie and Kenzie. So I don't know, Sarah, can we move Kenzie and Marie over to be panelists so that they can intervene? We also have questions about how people can join the African and the Asian working groups. It's great that you want to do that, so thank you. Please just send us an email to info@vngoc.org, and we'll connect you. In the Asia case, we'll connect you with Penny, who's running that process for us. And in the Africa case, we'll connect you with Helen and the other colleagues from the working group. So please just get in touch. And lastly, the question, we were hoping that Penny could take the floor, but obviously it wasn't possible. But their question was around methods for paying the membership fee. Could the use of credit cards be considered? Sarah, could you remind us what are the payment methods available now? And I think the problem with credit cards was just it's so expensive for us, isn't it, to have that system in place?
Yeah, for credit cards, we really can't really accept them because there's also no really easy solution to accept credit card payments for us to our Austrian bank account. So it would be exorbitantly expensive for us to offer that solution, and it wouldn't really be worth it for the membership fees. But we do offer payment through PayPal and through our account, of course, and hoping that we'll be able to meet in person in March. We also offer a cash payment.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Sarah, and thanks for your question as well, Penny. And yeah, it's just something we've looked at before, because obviously we want to try and make this as easy as humanly possible for people, but there's just a lot of barriers in the way and a lot of costs in the way of doing that. And the problem is we're dealing, in many cases, we're dealing with relatively small amounts of money. So if we're getting charged $20 every time we accept 50, immediately it doesn't really work for us. So thanks, Sarah. And the only other question I can see before I go to any other business is from Beatrice, just asking whether we will send emails about the events that are coming up, but also with the recording from today. So yes, of course, we'll continue to send out our newsletters. I hope everyone receives those newsletters from Sarah. If you haven't heard from us for a while, if you don't get our newsletters, please let us know. Please let Sarah know, and we'll try to work out what's going on. It can happen, sometimes things get put into the junk folder or just, the connection fails. So hopefully, Beatrice, you are receiving those messages. Okay, so yeah, any other business? I see two hands raised, or we had two hands raised. So Kenzie, over to you.
Thanks, Jamie. This is Michael Krautz here on Kenzie's line. I guess we confused our links today.
Oh, okay. So, all right, you were masquerading. Okay, no problem.
Yeah. Nice to see everyone virtually. It's great to be here. Wanted to just let everyone know that we were part of an effort where we brought together rather quickly after consulting with and understanding exactly what the International Narcotics Control Board was doing with regard to cannabis and the cannabis guidelines that have been sort of bouncing around for the last year or so. We were instrumental in putting together a group of over 50 NGOs, over 150 NGOs from over 50 countries to do a sign-on letter to speak to the leadership of the INCB and the Secretary General's office about transparency and about having the International Narcotics Control Board be more open to NGO involvement and participation. This is ongoing, and I think the VNGO committee has a very strong role to play and will help us engage the International Narcotics Control Board on these efforts. But if anyone's interested, I'll go ahead and put my email in the chat, and we can send you the link to the information, the sign-on letter, or anything else that you'd like to know about our efforts.
Okay, thank you. And it's also, correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, but it's also been submitted by Fields of Green for All as an actual NGO submission to the reconvened CND this week as well. So you can also find everything. You can find that document on the CND website, which is great. So thanks for that initiative. And also Marie, thanks for sharing the link. Yeah, okay. And Marie, over to you.
Yeah, hi everyone. So I'm going to put my video on to say hello. So first, thanks so much to the VNGOC for all the work you've been doing. It's really impressive. And on my end, I just wanted to raise one key issue that I'd like the VNGOC to add to its agenda for the next AGM in March, hopefully face-to-face. So this is about the fact that a lot of NGOs that are working on drugs who apply for ECOSOC status see their request deferred over and over again by the ECOSOC Committee on NGOs, which is the committee that is composed of governments, and they basically just ask question after question on NGO applications just to block them. So this is something that has been raised several times by IDPC members seeking to apply for ECOSOC status. And so IDPC has started conducting some research on this issue. And according to the preliminary data that we have, in 2021 alone, out of 34 NGOs under consideration by the committee that we think are working on drug policy, only 14 were recommended for ECOSOC status, and the rest of the applications were deferred. So I think this is an issue that is not only concerning IDPC, it's concerning the entire VNGOC. I feel like it would be a great opportunity to talk about this issue together so we can strategize and make sure that all VNGOC members who want to apply for ECOSOC status are able to secure it. So hopefully that's something that other VNGOC members are interested in. I'm pretty sure some of you have already faced these issues before. So yeah, looking forward to your comments. It would be really good if we can have some space to talk about that more in detail, and very happy for IDPC to present the data that we currently have.
Thank you so much, Maria. I really appreciate you bringing that forward. It's actually something that's already pretty close to our hearts on the board for obvious reasons, but also for selfish reasons, because Matej, your organization was deferred, if I understand, and Penny's was as well. So even 2 of the 6 board members kind of fell foul of this kind of emerging trend in the last 12 months. And I can see in the comments already people saying that their applications have been deferred multiple times. Or it's great that Johan, that your organization has finally been given the status. I think because I think, yes, Marie, to answer your question, yes, we will take this on as the board. We can discuss it as the board. And then what I propose is that we then come back in March and discuss it on the agenda or discuss it some way as a membership in March, if that would be okay. But also, I think, this is an issue, from my understanding of it, this is an issue that isn't just about drugs. It's not only the drugs NGOs that are being denied this space. This is actually a broader issue with the NGO Committee on Drugs deferring, the vast majority of the applications that it receives from all NGOs. So I think this would also, what I'd like to suggest to the membership is that, as well as discussing it as a VNGOC board, we also take some time to reach out to the other NGO committees, the NGO Alliance on Crime, the UNCAT Coalition, the New York Committee, and also to Congo as well, to kind of see, are they aware of this problem? Are they also experiencing this problem? And is there something we can do collectively? Because I think on this, rather than making it a drugs issue, I think there's something we can do collectively to be saying that this isn't satisfactory, the way things are working. And particularly, as I can see in the chats, like Militin saying that they've now been deferred every year since 2018. So for some people, this is taking 4, 5, 6, 7 years for their application to be passed, which I think the UN High Commissioner on Human Rights has recently come out and said, well, that's de facto rejection. If you don't approve someone for 5 years, you're basically rejecting them. So absolutely something we can take up, and thanks for raising it. Does anyone else want to come in on that? Are there any other questions on that point around the accreditation? Or any other points of business before we wrap up? No, I don't see any. So, okay, all that's left for me to do is to say a massive thank you to all of you for engaging, for getting us through this meeting. And an EGM is an unusual thing that we have to do, but I'm really glad that we did it. We look forward to working with the nominations committee now and hearing from them early in the new year when they will launch their call for applications for the board elections. So thank you everyone, really appreciate your participation. Thanks also especially to Sarah for all of her hard work all year to do this and to put all this together. And we will hopefully see you all in March. Thank you everyone.